Good morning, watch nerds. I'm changing the format of my video a little today, so if you're a subscriber or you've already watched any of my videos, please let me know what you think. I knew that sooner or later I would find a watch that would make me wonder why anybody would pay more than a few £100 for anything else. And unfortunately, I may have found it. Of course, that doesn't make this watch perfect, but it's close enough to make the price appear ridiculously low. I have often said a watch is just the sum of its parts, as I have no interest in brand history or country of origin. But this isn't the sum of its parts, because this watch is arguably worth far more than what you can get it for. Well, at least if you compare it with everything else anyway. So what did I pay? Well, these can normally be purchased from AliExpress for about 130 USD. But there was a recent mid-year sale and they were reduced. The best price I've seen on eBay UK is £98, but you guessed it, I paid a fair bit less than that. And welcome to my review of the Steeldive 1970 Capt Willard. I'm sure you already know that this is a homage of a Seiko watch used in a film called Apocalypse Now and worn by a character called Capt Willard, played by Martin Sheen. A good used one of the original version may set you back as much as £3,000, and a new reissue version will cost you in excess of £1,200. I would ask you to do your homework to see if the Seiko version is actually that much better, and if so, by how much. Of course, if brand heritage and history means much to you, stop watching this video, sell a kidney and buy a Seiko. If you don't believe me, watch one of many other videos on this watch, and I think you may agree, our opinions don't differ that much. Well, all but one. I should point out that I bought this watch with my hard-earned pension, and I've received no incentives to produce this video. So let's start with the packaging. Well, it comes in this protective foam lined box, which does a decent job, albeit it's far from premium. Inside, there's a tool to adjust the bracelet, a warranty card, which is unsigned and quite pointless, a tag, and an instruction manual that nobody ever reads. I have to say, I am no fan of the brand name, nor am I a fan of the logo, but neither are the worst I've ever come across either. Jody from Just One More Watch believes this watch may have been produced in the same factory as the same watches with different brand names on, all of which cost a lot more. I can't prove this, but it does sound feasible. This is my watch of the day. It's a Glycine M 1212. It's got a 40mm case and a Solita movement. And what a lovely watch it is too. I'm going to give you the dimensions now, but don't stop the video until you've heard what I've got to say afterwards. Now, the case width is 43.5mm, the lug width is 20mm, the depth is 13.5mm, but the lug to lug is only 47mm. With all the links attached, it weighs about 178 grams, so it is a bit of a chunky monkey. Along with the fact you can clearly see the outside of the case, the fairly chunky bezel, and a dial which is proportionally small compared to the case itself, this watch looks much smaller than the dimensions indicate. After all, this is what Seiko have always been good at, and this after all is pretty much a copy of their design. I believe it actually wears more like a 40 or 41mm watch. The watch comes in black, green or this blue. I didn't think the green suited it, so I bought the blue one with this sunburst dial, although I was close to buying the black one. As you can see, the dial layout is simple and legible, but it's a tool diver, so what do you expect? There is a framed white date window at 3 o'clock, a minute track that sits just below the chapter ring, and the Steeldive logo, which sits under the 12 o'clock. At the bottom it reads water 200 metre resist, which is of course its claimed water resistance rating. Of course, unlike the watch this emulates, it isn't ISO rated, but what do you expect? I particularly like the traffic light second hand with that little splash of red which matches the 200 metre script. The stick hands, chunky indices and the bezel are all very well loomed and with a combination of different loom colours. The loom is so good, this watch won one of Jodie's Loom War episodes. This is pretty amazing considering the price. Now let's have a look at that loom. Amazingly, the bezel has a ceramic insert. Buy a Swiss watch at 10 times this price and the chances are you won't get one. Praise the Lord for Chinese value, that's what I say. The action is surprisingly good, with very little backplay or wobble. Like the watch this emulates, the bezel doesn't quite line up, but to be fair, it's very close. When I ordered this watch, I expected the bezel to be rubbish, but I was wrong. I was very wrong. Now let's have a little listen. The case is one of Seiko's cleverest designs, especially as it makes the watch wear so much smaller than it really is. The guarded crown sits just below the 4 o'clock. The tops of the lugs are brushed, whilst the cushioned sides are nicely polished. Even on a smaller wrist, like mine, the case fits very well to the back of the wrist. The screw down case back is polished on the outsides and etched with the Steeldive logo in the centre. Although I may not be the biggest fan of the logo, it's very well executed, and once again, well done Steeldive, I'm impressed. The 6mm chunky crown is signed and engages well. Not surprisingly, it operates the movement as it should. Inside is the good old NH35 movement, which again is impressive considering the price of this watch. It ticks away at 21,600 beats per hour, it acts, it hand winds, and it's got a power reserve of around about 42 hours. The claimed accuracy is plus 40 minus 20 seconds per day, but from experience, they're generally far more accurate than that. I recently went on holiday wearing a watch with this movement, and it didn't require adjusting all week. Anyway, let's see what the time grapher thinks of this one. Absolutely fantastic, a good amplitude, an excellent beat error, plus 4 seconds a day. In reality, that's going to be more or less spot on. Incredibly, the watch has got a boxed flat sapphire crystal with some blue AR coating. I'm sure that that component alone is worth what I paid for this watch. The bracelet isn't great, but it's okay. To be honest, even though it may not be the watch's strongest point, it's probably still better than the £200 Seiko or £400 Tissot bracelet in my opinion. The links are solid, as are the female end links, that fit very well to the case. The tolerances aren't great, so this does make it a little bit jingly, but nothing too bad. The tops are nicely brushed, whilst the sides are polished. Adjustment is made via push pins. I'm fine with this, but the use of Loctite is always a good idea. Alternatively, you can order this watch on a rubber strap for the same price. Now it's not hard to calculate what represents the best value, is it? Now recently Steeldive upgraded the clasp. It's now half milled, it's got 6 micro adjusts, double pushers and a flip lock. They've even signed it. Once again Steeldive, you've impressed me. Before I go any further, I must apologise for the state of my hands. Believe it or not, they got sunburnt and they're peeling now. In summary, I'm convinced this is probably the best value for money watch available anywhere. Sapphire crystal, a well finished 316L case, incredible loom, a very good bezel with a ceramic insert, a reliable Seiko movement, and a decent bracelet and clasp. All this for under £100. Now do a parts search and see if you can actually make this watch for less. So will I be keeping this watch? Certainly not. You see, the turtle case has never been my cup of tea. In fact, I've owned 3 turtles in the past and flipped all of them quite quickly. But would I recommend it? Yes, 100%. Seriously, if you can't afford the original, don't waste money on more expensive homages, because this one's going to do you fine. Now that brings me to the end of this review. So if you enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your comments below and enjoy the rest of your day.